What's up, everybody? Welcome to Burning the Red Shirt. We were we were doing so good, Andrew, and then until we weren't in terms of consistency, and for that we failed you guys. But we're back. It's April, so we're peak off season, and I think per Andrew's math, we are 2 months away from college football. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was just talking it through with my daughter, and I think I've got her starting to apply my logic because she was talking about how long it is until school ends, and my wife was like, "Well, Daddy would say it's like a month or whatever." I'm like, "Yeah, I was just doing the college football math the other day. It's like we're 2 months because we're through April, games start in August, and camp start in July, so it's like May and June, a couple months, and then like." Later in the day, Amelia was like, "Oh yeah, I've got 1 month of school left or whatever."
When does school end? Early July or
June,
early June or end of May? Early June,
late June.
late June. Oh
Yeah,
gosh,
you guys
yeah,
do shit weird in the South, right?
we're done like mid to end of May, like May 23rd or 5th or whatever. It just depends on the days and like the weekdays and stuff. I love that your wife is like fully on board and knows your math. Like that you pull this shit. You know what I'm saying? Like that she knows your games, that she's onto you.
Yeah, she knows what she signed up for.
So I don't think we've actually chatted since we started the Champion Series drafts, correct?
Yeah, we have. It's been a few weeks since we potted. As you might have been able to predict, I've fallen. Bugs Bunny turned back to the old me and been deep in the lab in NFL draft props. So
You beat me to it. I was going to say we don't need to talk about the drafts yet. I think if you haven't listened to the Fantasy Points podcast, like Josh, Mike, and Froton did a good job of just chatting through all that and just players and stuff like that. They gave you a shout out. Have you listened yet?
no, I need to. I know.
It was Froton being Froton. It was Froton being upset with you for taking a player that he has staked his claim on.
Oh, I mean,
I
yeah,
don't think you'll ever guess. I was like listening to it. I was like, I don't have any idea who he's talking about. And then he said the name, and I was like, I mean, I didn't realize that like there was a mutual affinity between you two for the same player.
Oh man, so it's got to be. It's probably in the most recent draft. We've only done two so far, right? So, Froton style, like you know, he loves his fucking guys who like have NFL aspirations and stuff. Hates running quarterbacks. So let me see if I can guess the player looking through my recent draft here.
Yeah, and I'll give you a clue or two after a guess or two.
Where's my team?
You picked in the 9 slot this past,
yeah,
and it is. You're
so,
right. It is this past draft, of course.
Oh, I have a leading contender. I want to, but it could be one. I'm at two so far, and I'm most of the way through my draft. But like it's probably not in the back part of my draft because that's when I just start going straight G5 and like weird shit. Okay, it's one of two guys. It's either James Peoples or Luke Reynolds. I'm gonna say Reynolds.
That is crazy. It's Luke Reynolds. He took him the draft before. You took him a couple rounds earlier, so immediately that's going to get Froton's juices flowing. And I think the big thing with him is, like you said, NFL potential. I think everybody agrees Reynolds has like that type of upside. But he's got like a hometown connection, like a Boston, Massachusetts connection. You know, Froton from the Northeast, like you, and Reynolds is from the Northeast, and so because of that, he feels very attached at the hip about Luke Reynolds. But yeah, I'll let you listen to it. But that was actually incredible.
Thank you.
I'm glad we caught that live on camera. Before we get into this stuff, what draft stuff have you done recently? Because I saw you tweet about in response to somebody about NFL draft bets or something like that. What are some of the more shameful ones that you've put in more recently? Let's start there.
So, I mean, like so many niche markets, it's a dying market. It feels like things get released later and later every year, and the menu just gets slimmer and slimmer. You could argue why that is. It boils down to probably a couple different things. One, traditionally, books kind of chalk this up as a loss leader for them. They view it as kind of what would you call it, like a marketing thing more than like a money making enterprise for them. But then obviously those of us that are more in the weeds don't view it as such and want to make real money off it. But they probably don't love when people tout draft props and then send 200 of their drooling subscribers to go slam an individual prop. So I think that stuff like that is likely contributing to the dying market of sorts. But that is a long-winded way of saying that right now there isn't that much stuff available. For the second year in a row, my draft will start off very likely with a loss at the first pick. I was grabbing Abdul and Hunter for most of the offseason and didn't get enough Cam Ward to end up green on pick 1, but I've been picking off good numbers for Hunter at 2 and 3. So as long as he's a top 3 pick, I'll start off not too badly. Optimally though, Abdul Carter doesn't go 2, and then like from there it's like, okay, wheels up, because I have Hunter to go 2 and really good numbers and stuff, and then but I don't know. I have to spreadsheet all my stuff. I'm way over 50 props at this point.
It's not as simple as it is when you have like 10 bets compared to 50. At 50, you're like, now you could actually start creating losses just from just regular bets, just like a basic bet.
Yeah, lots of team the draft position, first pick, like what position a team will draft with their first pick type stuff. Some long shot team to draft player stuff. The Saints drafting Genty would be nice. Kellen Moore going back to his Boise roots would be.
That's why you asked Zach about that the other day.
Yeah,
everything always has a reason.
Yeah, if 6 or more offensive linemen go in the first round, I'll be feeling good. I bet that like 3 or 4 times, depending on what book you're looking at. There's either under 6.5 is like heavy juiced, or over 5.5 has a bunch of juice on it. But I've been betting the over 5.5 pretty consistently for the last week or so. Outside of that, I don't know, just kind of spraying the board on different stuff.
Let's go back to the first bet. You had your jam is really the first 10 pick type of stuff, and we're currently at the first 3 picks. So you didn't get any Cam Ward. You might be in trouble there for the first pick.
Yeah, I'm gonna start.
The problem is, I think your Travis Hunter or and or whatchamacallit, Abdul in the top 3 picks is like those are pretty much locks. You have to avoid Shedeur Sanders somehow getting the second pick or the third pick. That's your trouble. If the Giants convince themselves they need Shedeur, even though they've signed to like veteran quarterbacks, that could be where you get in trouble, because then I think Abdul and Travis Hunter is like a coin flip in terms of like who would want them and why and stuff like that. Like I think both of them are insane talents. It's just a matter of like who's in on trying to play Hunter twice, or both sides type of thing. The Browns though, you don't think the Browns go Abdul, right? That's who picks second, right? That feels weird just from like trying to connect the dots. If you look at it, the guy Myles Garrett, I mean, he's signed for the money, but like I think to an extent he kind of has to think to himself, like they're not going to take another pass rusher. Like, what is the benefit of adding another pass rusher? Like, they were great with pass rush and defense. Like, why would adding another one be all that impactful?
Right. I would be so at number 2. I would be fine with anything other than Abdul. I have Sanders at decent odds to go to as well. I agree with you, and like the way, I don't know, one of the ways I try and conceptualize it is just like thinking about it's gonna sound stupid, but like trying to put myself in my shoes of like actually imagining the pick happening in real time. I feel like these fucking nerds in the Browns general management is just like super analytical nerds and shit. I feel like they're just gonna look at all the data with Travis Hunter, the overall profile, the idea that like what is the recipe for this guy possibly failing? It feels like the most surefire thing ever. And then you've got like, how does this guy not make your team better in at minimum one way or lots and lots of ways? And Abdul, like, he's got multiple injuries at this point. He's kind of what's the right word? Not duplicative, but like not complementary. The opposite of complementary. Like with Miles already on the team, like there's some talk of like character stuff, but not like to the point of like the crazy James Pierce type shit. That where it's gonna like materially affect the stock. All the draft odds are basically like for number 2, it's like minus 250, Abdul number 2 plus 250, Travis number 2, and then longer shot Sanders.
And that's the second pick, not who the
Yeah,
Browns take, right? So like in theory, the trade is in play here.
I think when it all comes like boils down though, I think they're gonna end up going Travis.
I think it fits. If they like him that much as a defensive prospect, it makes a ton of sense because that they actually have a decent receiver core. So it's like you don't take him. I was listening to a podcast. It was interesting. It was like, well, if the Patriots take him, maybe Travis Hunter plays more receiver because they have good defensive backs, relatively speaking, and they suck ass at receiver. So it's like it'll be interesting from a fantasy aspect who takes him.
All of the concerns or just like the idea that where you shoot down that he's going to play both ways, he's absolutely going to like physically be able to play both ways, in my opinion, for whatever amount of snaps they want him to. Like just seeing how it's played out in college at a faster game and how he never comes off the field. And then like, did you ever hear Dion like talk about him and as like a person and like how he's wired and stuff? Like Dion was talking about during football season or like maybe at the conclusion of the regular season, he's like, yeah, I had Travis over my house at my farm and my ranch or whatever. And like, I'm getting ready for bed and like Travis is just like up, like going and like shooting guns, like at like he's got like a shooting range or whatever. It just makes it sound like Travis doesn't sleep ever. Cause he's just like, I think the guy is just wired so differently and athletically, like so different like that. And I think that correlates to just like how likely the pick is to be successful. Just because you have so many outs to him making a positive impact for your franchise, like so like it's the NFL draft, right? Like when we look back at the first round year over year, I don't know what the stats look like, but you imagine there's a decent amount of busts. How does Travis Hunter possibly bust other than like injuries and stuff, which is like a risk for everyone?
Right. I think I heard that maybe like half or a little less than half of every first round pick gets like their 5th-year option picked up, which is maybe a decent way to think about like bust or not. Yeah, I think he'll play a heavy majority of one side and he'll play like 30%, 40% on the other side. It just depends. I think there could be an interesting what side that is could be up to who actually takes him. So you bet over like over 5.5 offensive linemen or over
5.5 offensive linemen. Yeah.
Isn't this like a bad offensive line group?
So
or is it just like a bad top end offensive line?
Yeah, it's like not the best top end, but there's 3 locks, and then it feels like 5 guys or 3 locks of Campbell, Membu, and Kelvin Banks. And then it feels like this Alabama kid Booker, and then this fucking guard from North Dakota are like pretty much like 85% plus. And then you've got the 2 Ohio State kids, an Oregon kid. What would that put you at? 8. And you need basically one of them. And
did you say the Texas guy, Kelvin Banks?
Yeah.
The Booker guy is interesting. I think everybody loved him, and then he tested absolutely horribly.
Really?
Yeah, his RAS score was brutal at the combine. But I think everybody still likes him because I think they just convinced themselves, well, like he's a guard, and if in certain styles of offenses, like it's fine. He's a guard. He's not like a tackle that needs to be uber athletic and stuff like that. Yeah. What's your vibe on? Do you have anything on the Texas A&M guy that has like 1.5 career sacks?
There's some positions, and that is one of them, like the defensive line edge, stuff where it feels like at a certain point, like basically after your boy Mason Graham, the order is kind of um, you can mix and match the order for that position. So like he feels like he has a pretty wide net of where he could go. Like he could see in the top 10, or he could fall to like the back half of the first round. But I don't have I haven't done anything. There's no draft position props for him up yet.
Have you bet Detroit Lions first pick?
Yeah, a while ago, I lit money on fired them to take a cornerback at like 19-1, which isn't going to happen.
Cornerback.
Yeah,
that's not great.
Yeah.
Was this before the sign? Was this before free agency, or what? When did this?
It was a while ago. It was one of the first props I bet. I just looked at the mock of like someone that I follow and kind of believe that they put in the time and the effort, and like compared that to tried to find the longest shots for every for a team to pick position with first pick that mapped to what they had, and at that time they had a corner, and so it was a waste.
Do you remember who it was?
No.
So these early ones are so interesting. I mean, the thing is with the Lions, you never really know what they're going to do because like they should have taken pass rush in like the last 4 drafts.
I know exactly what they're
going to do. Like
they're taking Jack Sawyer at some point.
I hope it's not first round. I think we're going to take a defensive tackle. I've been talking to Mike about this, Bainbridge. I think we're going to take a defensive tackle. I will say Holmes is super happy to just take the same position over and over again if he thinks it's the best player. Because we did that with defensive tackle a couple of years ago in the first 2 picks, and we did it last year with cornerbacks.
So I think across all the first position team markets, the Lions have the shortest odds for any position, if that makes sense. They're minus 200 to go defensive line first pick. So the market agrees with you.
Yeah. So, what do you think of this like Matthew Golden first round stuff?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think he's anything great. I bet him to be first receiver at good odds before the market started to shift. But like, I think if any team does that, it's stupid.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we're to the point in draft season where people are just finding reasons to hate on players. Like it's just boring that this guy's been the number 1 receiver, Tet. So now it's like, how do I juice this up and like make it entertaining for the final month?
Totally.
Is there a spot you want Tet to go to?
Not really, but so the comp that people talk about him is Mike Evans, right?
Yeah, that's the big one because Mike Evans isn't like uber fast or anything, but like he just always seems to be open, or he always seems to get the contested catches.
I feel like he's more. I guess maybe he's like a mix of all 3, but I always thought he was like more Eric Decker / Michael Pittman because he works the middle so much. He's not just like Evans. I feel like he's just like, okay, go routes and go moss the fucking guy.
He does a little bit more than that, but yeah, I could see the Pittman comp. I don't know if I would like that as someone that could draft him. I don't know if I want Pittman, but is there a more popular mock pick than Tyler Warren going to the Jets or Colts, or Colston Loveland going to the Chargers? I feel like those are the most common picks out there.
No, I had to burn more money betting against Tyler Warren though, and bet some Colston to be first tight end. It's bullshit that we're never going to see Tyler Warren actually do anything in pre-draft because that fat fuck was running a 5.040, but he kind of decided he wasn't going to put anything on put anything on the field for the scouts or whatever. But trying to think, I'm trying to remember if I bet anything. I think I bet some long shots with him where he would go. Tyler Warren, like maybe the Patriots trade back and bet I bet 60-1 Patriots first pick to be tight end. But and then Loveland a little bit, 5-1 to be first tight end. But all that shit's probably dead.
I mean, if it's 60-1 or something, like, who
Yeah.
cares? Like, it's not like you're throwing a ton of money on it anyways,
Right.
And anything could happen. I mean, I could see the Patriots trading back, like trade back if they maybe wanted Hunter and he's not there, then you
Exactly. Yeah. If the draft starts, Ward, Hunter,
Abdul,
like
yeah.
Abdul, it's like, oh, right, there's a clear break here. But the problem, as it's being discussed presently, is like, who the fuck is trading up? Right.
Well, yeah, this is a weird year. It's like it does feel a little thin on high end talent besides those three, and even then, like I think you could say Ward's kind of a reach. It's just more of a quarterback thing. Are you buying at all that Shador could be dropped out of the first round, or like
Yeah,
late first round?
a little. Yeah.
You think it could happen? Do you think it's like true personality concerns, or is it like, or do you think people are just now looking more at the tape than realizing he's Shador's kid or he's Deion's kid?
But more so if he gets past 3, where's he going?
It is weird. There's not a lot of quarterback needy teams, right? It's the Titans, the Browns, the Raiders need a quarterback, then they got Geno. The Jets got Fields, and now they don't really need it. Who else needs a quarterback?
Saints.
But like they're kind of stuck with Carr, so
yeah, it sucks. I was looking at I was hoping that his team to draft player market would have gone up earlier, because if you can get ahead of like the perceived drop, you can get like crazy long shot odds and like, oh, maybe this team drafts him in the second round or like first. But it literally just went up today, and it's already baking in his potential fall. Even like the Cowboys are just like 5-1. It's like bullshit. The market's too flat for like teams who are going to draft him, because everyone's realizing his fall is possible. Like last year or 2 years ago with Levis, everyone thought top 3. I was like, this dude sucks, and ended up getting Titans at like something insane, like 60-1. But like I put like nothing on it. But I was thinking the longest one I was thinking about, which is like obviously not going to happen, but was like maybe the Cardinals. Maybe they move Kyler, or maybe they're just bored of this and like see it's going nowhere and like tap out, and then they draft Shador. But even that's like,
what about the Rams? What are their odds?
15. It's like not that great. It's too flat.
Really not that great for like 26th pick. Like,
yeah,
and you have to convince yourself that, like, of course, we already know that Stafford's kind of like wishy-washy there in a sense where they just signed or made him more, a higher paid player. They're not going to get rid of him in 2 years or till the end of the contract, which is 2-3 years. So then do you sit on it? The Rams aren't really like the sit on a first round pick type of team.
Yeah, they want to win.
The Steelers, I'm sure, are a heavy favorite to take him, right? Steelers feel like the popular pick after the slide because 21st pick for Shador feels very reasonable.
I would love that. I bet Dart. So over under position markets have started to come out. There's only like 10 to 15. I bet Dart over, as in goes later than the 21st pick, so 21.5. But I also bet a little bit on the Steelers to take a quarterback. So Shador going to the Steelers at 21, and then Dart going later would like be a beautiful middle, if you will, for me. What was I gonna say? Oh, let's all right, fuck this. Let's shift gears a little bit. Have you put out any feelers, gotten any info on Underdog release dates or anything?
No. Ethan said that there is like the little CFB tab is available on Underdog now, but I haven't looked at anything or heard anything.
Lame.
It's there. It's grayed out, but it's there. When do you think? Yeah. I mean, I know I asked the lady Hope, and she said after spring portal ends. So the spring portal is after obviously spring practice. So it's end of the month earliest.
So May-ish is possible.
I think May-ish is possible. I don't think it's likely. I don't think they're going to gain that many drafts or drafters by starting at May 15 compared to like
it's
June
just going to
1st
be the same
15 of us. It's going to be the same people, yeah. So my guess is sometime mid-ish June.
That would be acceptable.
I mean, we started last year mid-July. It was like July 17 or something. So I would be down with a mid-June.
Yeah.
Mid-June would be good. I Have you done? You haven't done any prep for it, right? You're
No, I have a tab in my like master spreadsheet that is dedicated to underdog. Just trying to parse a few different things like end game picks for each position. So like last 3, 4, 5 rounds, type deal, mapping out a little bit what and bucketing like QB 1, 2, 3, 4, RB 1 through 7 type stuff. A column for guys that I'm fading in 1-0 of whatsoever. But outside of that, more or less everything else is that I'm doing is more ubiquitous and not relative to like a particular game format. So like just trying to read spring practice reports. If I find anything that's depth chart, throw a link and then input that depth chart into the spreadsheet.
Have you noticed? I think two things that we've been talking about in the C2C Slack is that it feels like everybody is recovering from surgery. Like everybody somehow, like every relevant-ish player is like not practicing for surgery or something. Like I just realized this morning, I guess Nate said that Caton Hauser isn't
Yeah, I
playing
saw
this
that.
spring.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Kyron Drones load management on April 2nd. That's great. And then the other thing is it does feel a little light on spring news. It doesn't feel like we're getting the same amount of juice that we have gotten in previous years.
What I've been doing is just searching spring practice on Google News, and like it's so much like the same teams over and over, and it feels like Christmas Day or like I found an Easter egg. When anytime that I find like anything that's G5 related, because so much like it's just Auburn, Alabama, Kentucky, Penn State, Ohio State,
Arkansas
like
does a good job.
over and over and over. You gotta go through like so many pages just to find anything that feels new whatsoever. But I don't know. I was a few weeks ago. I was trying to do like daily updates, but like I've kind of tail off for now. I need to start doing more.
Yeah, there's just not a lot out there. It feels like the same teams or nobody. I guess one interesting tidbit, we talked about San Jose State in the past. Everybody is now talking about how Matthew Coleman wasn't talked about in like the first spring report. You were never on Matthew Coleman, right?
I would have been. He's going like he's gone
aggressively. Yeah, I took him in like the 6th, and I think he went again in the 6th this last draft.
Yeah. So not talked about as in not mentioned whatsoever.
I guess he was not mentioned. They talked about receivers, and he was not mentioned. I think they mentioned multiple. You know who they did talk about? Who got glowing reviews?
Is it the guy I've drafted in both of my drafts?
Trayshawn Hurry.
My dog.
He was mentioned a couple. I think he was mentioned as like a big athletic guy that like could replace the Lockhart or Nash role. That's good for you.
Well, is he like? Is he really going to replace Nash? I mean, I feel like it's very pie in the sky and unlikely that he actually plays hyper-targeted slot as like a bigger dude. I mean, that would be amazing, but I've been drafting him just through the lens of like, they're going to chuck it 50 times a game. Number 2 receiver in that offense can absolutely eat and blow up for me. So I'm totally fine with it. It feels high floor-ish. What about the Arizona transfer? Get mentioned at all?
Riley, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was mentioned.
True.
But I think the Hurry was like a coach quote. And I think the Riley was just mentioned like a beat guy or somebody that was an observer.
Where is this the 247 guy?
I don't know. It's just a screenshot shared with me, so I couldn't tell you where. I probably.
Gotcha.
Probably. Yeah.
I mean, it might be time to do the cameo for more info.
I think. Okay, so do you know how big Trayshawn Hurry is?
I will guess 6'3", 222.
6'2", 194 per ESPN. Do you know how big Nick Nash was?
Kind of a big dude, right?
6'3", 195.
Interesting.
So, like, I'm not saying Hurry's going to be the guy, but, like, I don't think its size isn't going to play an impact, I think.
I forgot about that. How last offseason, like we all kind of knew, okay, this offense revolves around the slot, but we couldn't definitively pinpoint who it was going to be because no one fit the archetype. And then like those of us who were super smart, were like, oh, let's just draft Nick Nash. He's the best player on the team, and they'll play the best player on the team in the slot.
They should put the former quarterback that's 26 years old at receiver. Lockhart was like 6'3", 195. Matthew Coleman is 6 foot, like 170 from the ESPN stuff. I don't know. It's so early. Do you take, obviously, if it's positive news, just one report, we take it, we run with it.
Yeah,
but
of course.
If you were a Matthew Coleman fan, like a significant fan that had drafted him in the 6th round, let's say, would you be worried about him not like being mentioned in 1 or 2 articles, or would you just say it's 1 or 2 articles like in 1 week of spring practice? Like, I'm not concerned about
that. It would make me try and have what's the right way of putting this? I would now try to carve out more time to following that a little more closely and like try and see what's going on here. But I mean, we're talking about San Jose State, right? So you've got the 247 guy who Jackson Moore, he covers like 4 teams, I think, for them. So like that begs the question, like, how closely is he covering any of these teams if he's covering 4 of them? I think it's Fresno, Cal, San Jose State, and then he even does some Hawaii. So like, come on, I think he like actually does like work himself to dust and like tries to drive up and down Cali for these.
You could work yourself to dust though and still not like really be. It's 4 teams and they're not like those 3 California teams are not all that. I don't know California geographics, but like they ain't that close to each other.
Right. And then you've got the student newspaper, the Spear, which is nothing. It's terrible. So like, even if I want to put my finger on the pulse a little more for this program, what am I really going to be able to get? Stuff.
Yeah, but I think you do make a good point. Like, he could be a great beat reporter. It is still just like one lower level school beat reporter that has, in this case, covering multiple teams. Yeah. I think like there are Texas can go F themselves. Those guys I will never trust ever again. I think you have to kind of figure out who those teams are that you can trust and not trust. And I think just also too, how much is this guy really plugged in, or how much is a, Texas San Antonio beat writer plugged in compared to others potentially? You got like one guy versus like 4 guys. If 4 different guys are talking about Arkansas and your guy isn't mentioned, you're probably in trouble.
Yeah. I feel like so many times we get like a little snippet of information from a G5 report and blow it up into a whole thing, and it usually doesn't work out that great.
It doesn't work great on April 2nd, April 3rd. You're telling me that Robert Freeman is not going to be a superstar? So speaking of Arkansas, I've been kind of following because, Andrew Armstrong had a shit ton of targets. Yeah. He was a top 25 receiver on Underdog last year, and he had 1 touchdown, which is shocking. So I'm like following it. I'm like, okay, Omega Blake transferred in from Charlotte. I drafted him super late, the first chance.
Wasn't he running like 3rd string?
Yeah, he was. It's not great, but he has come on. Originally not great, but he's come on a little bit. They basically have said that Raylan Sharp, then the 30-year-old
Monty, your boy. Yeah,
not my boy. And then Ismail Sissay from Stanford are like considered the top 3 guys, and Omega Blake is considered like the 4th guy. The nice part there is that the Stanford transfer has to be slot. He's tiny. Although I think he actually did run a decent amount of out wide. But
don't forget Cam Shanks.
I don't think Cam Shanks is doing anything. I guess the question becomes, are you like, if we come out and see that there's a true receiver one, like say like this guy's going to start out wide, they hope that he's going to be the next, like fill that Andrew Armstrong role. Do you care, or do you just say like that's like a 1-year blip?
Depends probably on cost. I don't love the idea of banking on Taylor Green's arm, but they did hyper target Andrew Armstrong last year. The depth chart that I saw on 247 a little while ago had Monty starting over Omega on day one, I think. So that I think is like a positive for you as a Blake supporter because he sucks. He's not going to do anything. So like Blake feels inevitable in that regard, and I think it's at the Andrew Armstrong position, right? Like I think it's at X or whatever.
It's out wide is all I know. He's
Yeah.
being talked about as someone that's out wide. He had some good numbers in like this spring practice, like scrimmage type format, but like
Who did Monty?
Blake.
Oh, okay.
Do I really care about like 7-on-7 stats? Like everybody had a touchdown. Like some of that stuff is like watered down. Like who cares? Like what? The 2-minute drill. He was great. Like whatever. Like what can you really take from that?
Do you have an opinion on Braylon?
I don't, except the fact that he's huge.
Yeah,
less huge this year. I just don't have a thing for 240-pound running backs. Like it just to me is like I don't care that you have bigger size and now might be able to take 25 carries a game. Like you're 240. Like what are you really doing?
Hopefully crashing into the end zone 10 plus times.
That is a position though of interesting note because Jaquindon Jackson was a top 25 P4 running back and per points per game. And the nice thing about him was that he didn't catch any passes. So like that's like it feels like a higher floor if you get the starter because you're not having to worry about like can he catch the ball or half point PPR scoring, stuff like that.
I bet they take a transfer because right now it's Rodney Hill and some guy named Tyrell Reed behind him. So you can dream on like Braylon getting a huge share of carries. But
they got Braylon from the transfer portal. He went in and he was out. He was in
and then they got him again from the transfer portal.
And then they got him again from the transfer portal. So what I think maybe the most polarizing top 2 or 3 round pick is someone that you took this past draft.
Who?
You need to explain yourself for Jaheim White. You took him 109 over the likes of Isaac Brown, Aljay Henderson, Ryan Williams, Jeremiah Love. What's your thinking? Is this one of your like, I want to draft the guy that could go for 2,500 rushing yards and like I'll take it if he runs for 500 type of picks from you?
I'm a Rich Rod truther to my core. Like I've been like me and Rich Rod go way back. I'm not jumping off the boat at any point.
So Josh posted some really good stats, some interesting stats, and Mike's kind of backed it up, and at least in private conversations with me. It doesn't seem like the RB1 for him has been any good. Now, the hard part here is like, what part of Rich Rod's resume do you look at? Like when he was at West Virginia the first time, all those guys were awesome.
Yeah,
but that was like 18 years ago. Then Trey Stewart last year was incredible, but like every year in between has not been great. So like, what's your reason?
Is this Kadeem Carey erasure?
I think Kadeem Carey was the last one that's been any good besides Trey Stewart. Like, so Kadeem Carey to Trey Stewart's not a great resume if those are the two guys. That's like 12 years, 10 years.
Well, he wasn't coaching for a while. Or like what happened? What happened? So his last 3 years or so at Arizona, my recollection is what basically happens is he entered, and I recall all this because it cost me money every year. They enter the year with Nick Wilson as the RB1, and Nick Wilson gets hurt, and they don't have anyone who could actually run the football behind him at the running back position. So can we blame Nick Wilson's health there?
I think if you're pro Jaheim White, you do.
Yeah.
So basically, Rich Rod went Michigan to Arizona to Ole Miss for 1 year to Hawaii as an analyst. I don't think you count that. Louisiana Monroe and Jacksonville State for 3 years. I think it's hard for me to be like anti Rich Rod for Jacksonville State years. Like he had two bad years and then one incredible year with Trey Stewart. I don't care about UL Monroe. He spent 1 year there. Like how much could he really impact there? Hawaii doesn't matter. Ole Miss doesn't matter 1 year. The Arizona years are weird though.
Yeah, I probably should have taken Isaac Brown over him. That's fun. That's fair.
Do you have like anti Isaac Brown thoughts, or just was it just you saw red and you, or
No,
maybe you
he's
saw
awesome. He's awesome. I
you saw
also,
blue?
yeah, I saw blue. It's annoying. This is all your fault too. That Watson goes so high in drafts. Like, there's no reason for that. We should be able to get him in like the 25th round.
Nope.
But you've thrown down the gauntlet and said no, thank you. So good job. When does the dump come in for the pump and dump on Duke Watson?
When we hear that Isaac Brown, like when Duke Watson gets hurt, or when we hear that Isaac Brown is like the guy.
Okay.
If I take Isaac, I'm just, here's an alert, a warning for everybody, a disclaimer. If I take Isaac Brown in the first round, I'm taking Duke Watson 5 rounds earlier than he should. I am not leaving this draft without guaranteeing I get the Louisville running back.
Yeah,
I'll let Duke Watson slide when I don't take Brown, because I'm not necessarily here to hedge a bet with, like, to try to grab that like guy just because. I need some guaranteed Louisville action with Brown for me to want to take Duke aggressively. I took him. I think you're referencing the 13th round.
He went in the 13th. Yeah, he went for 13th in both these drafts. Compare and contrast Louisville and Penn State running backs.
I think the upside for Louisville is much higher. I think you're taking Duke Watson because you're like, there's a shot that they kind of go 50-50 like Penn State, but I think it's way more 75-25. Whereas I think Penn State, we know what they're going to do, right? They're just going to run each of them 12 to 13 times a game. But I think Singleton is just so much more explosive, and his pass game stuff's awesome. He scores a touchdown every game. He's going to have 2 or 3 catches. And the nice thing about his catches is, like, he could get 50 or 60 yards on those 2 or 3 catches.
For sure.
That's the big positive with Singleton, and why I don't hate him as much in like these half-point PPRs, because like he's not really a volume guy as much as he's just like a mass yards guy.
Yeah, I'm super interested in Duke Watson if it was cheaper, but like, I don't know, 13th round feels like I'm not doing it.
It'll be interesting to see if in every Champ Series draft the guy that takes Brown takes Watson. So far we're 2 for 2 because Bacon took him.
Yeah.
So Bacon took him in the 13th round. Yeah. I find it interesting. In typical fashion, every one of your early picks is super. Actually, almost every single one of your picks is like super projectable with like 0 floor.
Yeah, regretting the Yassine Willis one was like a kind of a panic pick. I feel like I was taking up a ton of clock and was like in the middle of a bunch of meetings at work, and I just took him from like a cluster of guys that I was kind of considering. But yes, 0 floor for sure with all these guys.
Jaheim White, Eric McAllister, Alahado from Hawaii, Damon Williams, Robert Henry, Yassine Willis, Max Clare, Dupree at Wisconsin, and then you took Lofton at Miami and Peoples at Ohio State. Like, legitimately, those guys could all be incredible, or they could all fall on their face.
Love it.
I think Yassine Willis is like prime pump and dump.
Ooh, yeah, for sure.
You know why? Because Jared pumped him up because he wants that like Syracuse running back, which I think at this point we don't really know what Fran Brown wants to do. It's been 1 year, but I think signed point to like a great running back producer. And then we're going to get a dump because Fantasy Points hated on Yassine Willis. So that ADP is going to start dropping here. Once people start listening to those podcasts, he's in trouble. That ADP is dropping.
So I haven't listened yet, but the counter argument to Yassine just the Syracuse.com article about committee?
Yeah, I think it's basically like, well, we don't really know what Fran Brown wants to do, and early signs of this year when they don't have LaQuint Allen is that it could be a committee.
Are they really going to give carries to Jeff Nixon's failure? You know what? I shouldn't be mean to like some college kid, but like Will Nixon is just playing for his dad. Like couldn't cut it at Washington. Like has never shown anything, and it's like year 7 in school, dude. Like we don't need you taking carries from someone who actually has potential to make the team better.
That the counter argument is certainly like who's in the running back room.
Yeah.
Like Willis looked good in limited touches, but even then I would argue like we're hitching a lot to this Yassine Willis wagon when we don't really know if he's that great, and it could be a committee. Do you think like Arkansas they could go in the portal for a running back?
Mm-hmm. Where's my dog Whaley gonna end up?
I don't know if he's a Syracuse guy. Is he a West Coaster?
I don't know. I mean, he was at Northern Illinois to start, right?
Oh, you're right. So maybe come back East Coast.
Yeah. You know who's technically still in the portal? TJ Harden.
That would be cool. I would be in on some TJ Harden at Syracuse.
I mean, I think he kind of sucks, but like, I'm just curious what he's going to do because he's the biggest name who entered the portal and hasn't exited like in like the initial portal window.
I mean, he has to pick a school event. Like, what is he doing? Like, what's the?
Some of these guys just give up, right? I think that
that's sad. I feel bad for TJ Harden now.
Coming back to come back to my draft a little bit. Where are you on Robert Henry?
I have no opinion on Robert Henry.
Yeah.
I literally couldn't tell you like if that was a good pick, bad pick, or right on the spot. Like I don't have any. Comes to UTSA, I'm in on the passing game stuff. Even though I think Owen McCown is being drafted too high personally, but
it's Clint just doing it every time, right?
Clint Heath love Owen McCown
dancing to the beat of their own drum. I would never do that with Mike Alahada.
Who does that?
Yeah, Henry, easy to make arguments in both directions. His big games at the back third or whatever of the year were against like the worst defenses in the world. It was like Temple and North Texas. And then he got bottled up and hurt against Army and didn't play in the bowl game. But the dude is talented, right? He's former number one overall JUCO RB. What do they have at running back? So Kavorian Barnes went to TCU. They turned that Alabama to JUCO to UTSA quarterback into a running back, Demetrius Davis. Like presumably that kid isn't going to do anything serious. Rocco Griffin went to UMass, I think. I don't know.
They have a lot of running backs.
Do they?
They do, but I don't remember them to be anything inspiring. Like it's just like a bunch of names that are like I've heard of the names before, but I couldn't tell you like if that's anything threatening.
We've it's tough. I don't know how to feel about them from like a legacy system and legacy production at the position perspective, given like they have cycled through OCs because they have been a successful program and their OCs have gotten picked off by Illinois and Oregon, right? So I don't know enough about their current OC from like a tendency perspective or anything like that. Yes, it's been a couple of years since like they've had a true RB1 from a program perspective. Obviously, you've got Sincere, you've got Kavorian Barnes in the past who showed out and like got lots of touches and stuff like that. But I don't know. It's tough. There's definitely I definitely put a lot of hope and projection into taking him in the 5th round.
Some of those names that I have heard and recognize have left, like you mentioned. They still have a couple guys. Brandon High had a good game in the bowl game.
Yeah.
I mean, it was Coastal Carolina. It was like whatever. The other name that's been heard, but nobody really knows is Bryson Donnell, the Texas Tech transfer.
Oh, okay.
Just kind of a name. So there's not a lot of competition, but they did seemingly kind of like Brandon High, I feel like enough to – I felt like they should have just pounded the rock with whoever we all slammed in our lineups that day, but they presumably rolled in like 3 guys for that.
Their offense flicked the switch in the back half of the year, and all of a sudden every game was 40 to 50 points being scored, and every drive was 3 plays. I don't know. Yeah, a lot of projection in there for sure. Who fucking knows?
There's a group of running backs in this like 7, 8, 9th round that I just am I have no idea what to think on. Like Taylor from Troy, Dupree from Wisconsin, Scottrey Humphrey at New Mexico, Jordan Lyle, Miami, Smothers from NC State. What's the appeal for Smothers at North Carolina State? Because I have zero interest in Smothers.
I was like super. I wanted to be his biggest fanboy and wanted him to go a lot later, and Heath just keeps taking him early. It's super annoying. Like I don't know if I want to be taking him that early. Maybe I'll start. Like, have you ever watched? Have you watched the NC State games at all last year?
I watched some, yeah. Unfortunately,
He's talented, man. Like
he's
he's
got
a very
some
good,
juice to him.
yeah, he's a good running back. He's a good player, and I think as the year progressed, they just kind of got out of their own way and started giving him more and more work, and he just succeeded at every challenge that they did. There's been I've seen some hype on him at the end of last year, start of this year, this spring type deal. It feels like it's going to largely be his backfield. Things will probably look more friendly for running backs now with I forget what Kurt Roper's background is, but like it's not, we're not talking about Robert and I just revolves around the quarterback type deal anymore. So maybe more RB focused stuff. Still, like I say eighth round, like eighth round is very much earlier than I wanted to be taking him. Like I had him marked for like, oh, this is like a perfect early to mid teens underdog pick where I'm going to slam that click that button like for 50% of my drafts. And I don't know if it's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's not even just our drafts. He's going, he in all the early drafts, he's going a little earlier than I was hoping. Like people are kind of locked in on, like, I think the possibility here.
I will say, looking back at the game log, now that you mentioned it, he was very good the last 5 games.
Yeah.
He hit basically 80 yards in 4 of the 5. Speaking of running backs that are being drafted higher than I would like, can you talk about Terrion Stewart and why you were taking him so damn high?
You think it's high taking him in the 14th round?
So, for reference, I took him in like the 28th round in one of these P5 only drafts.
Really?
Yeah, I took him super late in a draft, and then I show up to Champion Series 1, and you took him in the 10th round. And then this last one, you took him in the 14th round.
Yeah. I don't understand. What's the hesitation?
The hesitation would be Braden Bennett or just straight success offensively. But I am very much in on Terrion Stewart. If I can get like Terrion Stewart in like the 10th round and underdog, like that is, I'll do that all day.
It's probably, I mean, I wouldn't call it optimal that he's not on campus yet, but I guess it's not surprising that he's like, it sounds like he's like figuring out some great stuff, finishing up school, right? Do you remember when he is like the last player I remember, what's the right term? Not playing a year because of grades. Do you remember this? Like he just like right before 2021 maybe started, they announced like, yeah, he's just gonna focus on grades this year. Like when was the last time you heard that for a player? Weird. Dude, I never got around to writing it, but like Scott Loeffler culture at BG was like so real. Like that dude absolutely crushed it at Bowling Green. But hopefully it's, I mean, it like you read I think it was your boy Andy Bitter like was answering some questions on Twitter or replying about Terrion's status, and was like, yeah, he's finishing up school, like everything's on track, he's just not here for the spring. But for someone with like grade problems in the past, all right, a little sketchy, but still, maybe it kind of correlates to my decade-long belief in Rich Rod, but like Philip Montgomery offense historically, like he's down to give a running back a ton of carries. I love the idea of kind of 2-man game of Kyron Drones and Terrion Stewart. Every play starts the same way, fake handoff, and then things kind of go different from there, kind of Gus Malzahn-ish type stuff. But
I've heard people say, I feel like I've heard people say that Braden Bennett is like gadgety, like he's not like a true running back. You know how big Braden Bennett is?
He's big too. He's like at least like 6'2", right?
6'2", 215. And you're right. Montgomery, what he did do was hammer the running back, even if they were not good.
Yeah.
a la Zach Langer. So you're definitely right. This is the type of position battle that I want to like draft, where the upside, if you're right, is just incredible. Like if Terran Stewart is the guy and he is academically eligible, we're floating that rumor out there now, by the way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like he's got 250 touch potential, like 230 touch potential. And I think I'd much rather target that type of battle, like a Kamari Muton, although that one feels less of a battle than it did like a month ago at Iowa. I want to like target those, and if he's a dud, he's a dud. But like the upside is just so incredible if you get it right.
Is Mouton so Clint keeps drafting him, right? Or like someone
I
keeps
saw in Iowa two things Iowa related that was somewhat interesting. Mouton was listed as the number one running back, no or with Patterson. It was Mouton, then 2 was Patterson. The other interesting part was Mark Gronowski is not practicing. He is also recovering from surgery.
I'm not fucking drafting Kamari Mouton if he's going high. Like that is such an easy fade for me. Like I'm
how high is high?
Didn't he go in like the 4th round in our draft?
He went 8th round in this last one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 8-1 to Clint.
Okay. I don't know why I thought that.
No, I think the 7-8 round is probably the sweet spot for him. And if it's earlier, I probably don't want to do it. Because like in the 5th round is when you get some like, Dylan Carson, Henry, LJ Martin, Connors, Haynes. Like, I don't know if I would want to take Mouton over those guys, but then it's that group of weird running backs that I was talking about. Carson Hansen, Kanye Udo. Like, by the way, Udo is like RB3 at Arizona State right now.
That I was reading, if that feels like it's gonna be like difficult to parse, or at least early, what's actually going on there. Because like I saw some hype piece about Kyson Brown's leadership or whatever. Did you see this?
Dude. Yeah, of course.
Did you actually read the quotes?
I read some of it. I can't remember. It was like a week or two ago.
I'll have to dig up the screenshot, but like he's like Kyson Brown's like, yeah, I'm like so stoked to take like more of a leadership role and in the RB room and like run with whatever little bit of carries I get or something. I was like, obviously, like you could say like maybe it's just like I don't know, not everyone's like so refined in their and so elegant in their soft skills at the age of 20 or whatever. But like it struck me as like little bit of a role, dude. Like what's going on here? Like I want to hear 20 carries. I don't want to hear about your like bit role that you're gonna carve out. But I don't know. That feels like a difficult room to read at this point.
Two things. I don't think so personally, but I'm also a Kyson Brown stan, so I'm gonna take this bias and run with it. Arizona State does an incredible job with their beat guys. Like if you're not hearing mention of your players in these articles and conversations, this is a team you should feel in trouble with. Kenny Dillingham talked about 3 leaders, and usually leaders don't matter. Sam Levitt, Jordan Tyson, Kyson Brown are the 3 mentioned. Like to me, wheels up. And then do you see Kyson Brown had a number change?
No.
He went from number 2 to number 1.
Man, I would love to see some analysis on number change correlation to production year over year.
I think yes, but also just straight like the swaggy numbers to production. Like, give me all running backs number 1. Give me all linebackers or pass rushers number 11. Any teen, right? Like those types of things are awesome. I don't have enough Brown, by the way, so I need to get on that.
Do you know I know the answers can be no to this, but do you know I saw Jordan Tyson's playing in the slot? Was that the case last year?
I think he played a mix of it.
Okay.
He definitely, it's not unusual for him to be playing slot.
All right. I just assumed he's like outside Alpha X 99% of the time, but
I'll take a quick look. I'm fairly positive that he played, I might even say a majority out inside.
Yeah.
Slot. It was like 42% slot, 53. Yeah, like 56% wide, 43% slot. Fair. So yeah, he played a significant portion there.
Fine.
I feel like there was one other thing I was going to bring up. Oh, shit, I forgot already. We'll have to see.
Oh, how quickly are you? You're. Have you already started the pump and dump on Telly yet, or is it?
I drafted him one time because I hate these. Some of these rounds and picks I just hate. Like I took Telly Johnson 402, but I don't know that all these picks kind of suck. Like
Yeah, I like the
Chip
back half of my
Trainum is
draft.
a tough pick. Like Haynes at Georgia Tech's tough. Sutter Gaines at Boise. Like I just don't. I just figured like that was my favorite of the group. Like there's nothing wrong with any of those picks. I just hate all of them, even the guy I took. Like Nate Frazier 411. Like I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but like when would Nate Frazier ever be a 4th round pick in previous years?
Yeah, I mean it's so tough to feel good about early round picks this year. There's just for all the reasons everyone's saying, right? Lack of return production and whatnot at non QB positions.
Yeah. 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 All right. Well, any final thoughts or comments before we wrap up?
No, not really.
Okay. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed it. We're back for our quota of 1 episode a month. We might not make it again until we're a month out from the season, which would be May 1st. Otherwise, you guys enjoy your week. Enjoy spring reports, and we'll get with you guys soon.
Enjoy the NFL draft grind.
Take it easy.